Life is full of little questions. What should I have for lunch? Does my bum look big in this? Is there really objectively any point in, once again, dragging myself out of bed and into the cruel and heartless world this morning? Practical questions, all of them, but none really stretching the bounds of our imagination. But what about the really interesting stuff? The smallish changes to our reality that could fundamentally alter existence as we know it. Well, chin up there, soldier, because we're going to divert our attention from the futility of existence with a couple of fun little thought experiments. My name is Adam Cleary, and these are 8 what-ifs that would change everything. Number 8, what if the sun died? Okay, straight up, we have about 5 billion years or so of the sun left, so no need to panic yet. But if the sun simply switched off tomorrow, then by the end of the week, temperatures would dip to an Arctic -20. After a year, -75, and then down to a nice and stable -240 degrees Celsius. Approximately the same temperature as my heart. Humans could actually survive in these temperatures by moving underground near the Earth's core. Yes, like in the Matrix. But with the sun gone, so are plants, and thus no photosynthesis, and thus no food, so we'd all just starve. And hey, this is only if the sun magically vanished. If it actually died, then it would first swell up so big that it actually vaporized the Earth instead. So yes, sorry, admittedly I should have started with that. Number 7, what if the Earth stopped spinning? Okay, so to begin with, let's imagine the Earth comes screaming to a halt all at once. Now, it spins at roughly 1100 miles per hour, meaning that everything on it is also moving at 1100 miles per hour. If the Earth suddenly stopped, everything that wasn't nailed down, including you, the topsoil, trees, houses, and the atmosphere itself, would appear to go flying westwards at phenomenal speeds. We would get a global hurricane, the likes of which I can't even begin to describe to you. If we slowed gradually though, then your days and nights would essentially stretch out over a year, with half spent in darkness and half spent in endless light, with long, drawn-out twilight periods in between. If this sounds like a bit of a drag though, then fear not, as the lack of rotation would cost us our magnetic fields, and we'd all simply just fry under the sun's rays anyway. Number 6, what if there was no moon? Yes, a massive downer for werewolves and that girl you know who is massively into tarot cards, but would us normal people actually miss the moon? Well, not now, but we would have. Back in the early days of our planet's history, the moon was much closer and therefore caused much greater tidal shifts. These prehistoric tides stirred up the primordial soup, mixing together the building blocks of life itself, so yes, thanks moon. Number 5, what if all the bees disappeared? In case you aren't aware, if bees die, we probably die as well. Yes, no messing about, we are almost entirely dependent on them for pollination, and without that, we can't make most food, so I'm gonna stick my neck out and say bees are actually good. No bees would mean no coffee, no tea, no orange juice, and no animal feed, which obviously then means no milk, no cheese, no meat, no eggs, and a huge one for wrestling fans, no lycra, because we wouldn't have cotton. Basically, without the bees, you'll be living on a diet of corn and rice as they're wind-pollinated and wearing a hideous 80s jumpsuit and dreaming of the last time you saw a flower. Number 5, what if the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs missed? Apparently, this has already been explored in the movie The Good Dinosaur, so there's no need for me to... What? Oh, that wasn't a documentary. Alright, fair enough. So, very, very, very long story short, the dinosaurs were already struggling a bit before the asteroid hit. There'd been a lot of climate change, the continents were breaking up, they were getting by, but not exactly thriving. But that being said, they were surviving and had proven fairly resilient up until this point, so let's just assume they pulled through. The very quick and depressing answer to this question is, well, at the time mammals like you and I were merely lunch, and without the asteroid, we would have stayed that way. Basically, there would have been no modern man. So in that case, what would dinosaurs have done with 65.5 million more years in charge? Well, they could have evolved into intelligent, bipedal, and technologically advanced reptiles like the Queen literally did, or more likely, simply diversified. Some would have been warm-blooded, some would have been dolphin levels of smart, but we'd have just still been scurrying around on the floor. Number 3, what if women had been in charge? Things would have just been a lot better, wouldn't they? No, wait, I can prove this one. Wait,
Historically speaking, it is generally the rule that the blokes are in charge. But how would the human race have turned out if we developed under matriarchies instead of patriarchies? Well, we can find out by looking at the handful of societies that actually did. The Aka, a nomadic people from Central Africa, are considered to be the best fathers in the world because, well, that's their only major job. And the Meghalaya in India, where women hold all the power, have pretty much subjugated the men in their society. They work the fields, look after the children, and not really a lot else. Whilst we should always be striving for an equal society and not one of domination between either sex, the common thread in all these societies is that things like divorce and reproductive rights aren't really a thing, because the people making the babies already have the power, so there's no need to control them with religious dogma.
Number 2. What if the plague never happened? The Black Death, as its mother called it, decimated most of Europe in the 1300s and is estimated to have killed off as much as 60% of the population. This, as I'm sure you might imagine, had a few knock-on effects, but not all of them were bad. You see, the plague had a nasty habit of disproportionately killing off the lower classes, and the problem with this is it's like knocking out the bottom of a pyramid. All of a sudden, the posh knobs found that they were noticeably short of worthless serfs to labour their land. This labour deficit suddenly put the peasants in high demand, giving them power to negotiate pay, perks, and generally not being treated like dirt. Effectively, this created a middle class, and what do you get when you have a middle class? Business and industry. Ergo, without the plague, we wouldn't have civilization as we know it. Thanks, death. Number 1, what if we all just disappeared? Don't pretend you haven't thought about this one. What if one day everybody, you, me, Josh Brown, this bus driver, Wesley Snipes, the woman who put the cat in the bin, that cockend from your office, Oprah, all of us, we all just disappeared? Well, first things first, power stations would grind to a halt as there'd be nobody to work them and we'd have no electricity. Then you'd get livestock roaming free, but they would be largely unequipped to survive without human interaction, and sorry, but your pets would all definitely get eaten or just starve in their cages. As flood defences, dams, reservoirs and pumping stations break down, many of our cities will flood, creating a sort of urban wetland. Then vegetation begins to take over and all of our structures will rot. First the wooden ones, but eventually steel as it's overcome by rust. Eventually, all that will be left of our once great civilization will be plastic. Yes, the tragic thing is, you see, that hardly any of it really breaks down via natural processes, so one day, alien archaeologists will visit and wonder what happened to the great plastic empire that once lived here.